It is the 26th of May and I've seen a lot of people do this exact video, and if I'm anything, it is late to the party. You know, I love turning up a bit fashionably late, and I love arguing and telling people why my subjective opinion is literally correct. And so here are 6 books that I think are 5 stars, but I've rated them off of other people's 1-star reviews, and why you should read them and disregard any bad reviews you've ever heard of any of these books at any point. Cringy dialogues, cringy scenes, and damn annoying cringy characters. No character depth, the plot seems a bit over the top without much explanation, and the art sequence is just a bit disconnected. Going to DNF this series, gross scenes alert, brrr. I have a lot better comic series in my TBR. 48 likes. Gross scenes alert. Saga is a sci-fi epic, a true blue space opera. It is violent and open about sexuality in a way to properly engage with conflict and humanity. It deals with the real issues of war and exploitation in a rapidly paced, all-consuming story, which also involves mystery and intrigue. It is intricately woven, and that aspect of detail is important to this story, which is why there isn't much explanation. The reasoning and rationale is earned, you know, through the reading of the story. Cringy dialogues, I agree. There is a lot of cringe in this novel. The light-heartedness of the familial unit that this story centers on is useful against the backdrop of war. Love is very important to the story. It helps the story to be earnest and heartfelt as the sweet yet dangerous life of this family leads subsumes the story. It's cringe, but it is love. Like, I think that is love, and the characters are shaped by the way that they are over the top. It helps to highlight the high stakes of the story. Planets, governments, livelihoods, piracy, murder are all quite commonplace in this world. This is magic and it is science fiction. Saga's scope is enormous, so why would it be anything but over the top? You know, if the shoe fits, wear it. The novel had everything I could possibly dislike. 1, a female lead that's an annoying meddler and a busybody whose immature and snobbish entitlement leads her to cause mischief, who indulges in bouts of blatant hypocrisy, and whose regrets at the end at the bad result of her behaviour is paper thin at best, and who, in typical Austen fashion, never really pays the consequences because in the end everything is right for her and the woman she damaged with her actions. I don't really get along with meddlers of this nature, and when they don't weather the outcome, it's particularly tiresome. I wish Austen had the courage to make some of her characters pay the logical consequences of certain actions instead of shoving a happily ever after down our throats. Whew. I don't get along with meddlers of this nature is such a funny fucking phrase to say out loud. Meddlers, hijinks, cringe, and class dichotomies is what Austen's all about, okay? Blatant hypocrisy is such an interesting lens, I think, to view this story through, since the novel is all about Emma and her relationship to class. It's about many other things, such as going to people's houses, as all Austens are, and matchmaking 17-year-olds for marriage, but Emma's prejudice against the poor, plus more importantly the merchant middle class, is how she weathers the outcome. The prejudice is directly addressed. It's a central theme, and perhaps the result of her behaviour is paper thin, but, you know, let's keep it 100 between us. People who only read for absolutely blameless characters and excellent, amazing outcomes are so fucking boring. Escapism is great, and if we think about Emma and Knightley's ages in the modern contemporary era, you know, this is perhaps a little escapist too, whatever. But refusing to comprehend the type of story that you are reading is lazy. Wanting logical consequences, and then the titular character is a rich, upper-class white woman in a small town where her family is very important. This is the logical ending to this story. Read Emma for an incredibly succinct, insular analysis of class, gender, and more importantly, meddlesome girls. DNF'd, to try harder book. Can't believe this book won the Women's Fiction Prize. Its writing is so superfluous, overly laboured use of adjectives and similes and commentary cutting into critical junctions of plot development. It slows down the pacing so much. Makes me feel like I'm reading snippets of beautifully written prose littered randomly. Superfluous, overly laboured use of adjectives and similes, commentary cutting into critical junctions of plot development. And then you can't believe this book won the Women's Prize for fiction. Like, come on now. Beautiful, consistent, easily readable is how I would describe this. It's engaging historical fiction about William Shakespeare's wife, Anne Hathaway. And let's be serious with each other. The commentary is what brings her alive. Shakespeare's wife could be anybody, but Maggie O'Farrell makes her somebody. She's upright, in love, loved and smart. She's autonomous and interesting. Of course, the greatest playwright in history fell for her. She's bewitching and terrified, she's a grieving mother, and she's a fierce woman in stasis by the end. The snippets of beautifully written prose exist to understand her, pull the story forward, and recognise the role of gender in Tudor England. She's autonomous but never really entirely that, and that balance which is drawn here is what is so enchanting about this novel. Also, this book is such a page turner. Give it a go if you are really into Shakespeare in any capacity, and honestly, if you're also into Taylor Jenkins Reid. I keep saying this, I think she was a big winner with Taylor Jenkins Reid's man. 1 part boring, 2 parts child abuse, 4 parts Korean food. No thanks. 68 likes. Ugh. Interesting that there are 7 parts here. What do we think the backstory to that is? Okay, so child abuse, like, well yeah, that was the story. The labour of being an abs for a child, a mixed one at that. You know, the fine line that is walked between abuse and control and love is integral to the story. Understanding and passing out which is what. It's what the narrative is following. And it's also what your job as a reader is to a book. Korean food. Now, in a book called Crying in H Mart, what were we thinking would or could be going on? Food as the passage into cultural and societal touchpoints is a very real and tender way to tell a story about someone's Asian mother. It's a deeply emotional story about how food has defined the relationship and how it's an easy way to relive and stay in touch with your heritage. This is literally one of the best memoirs I've ever read, and I think it tangibly changed the memoir industry. She's not even a full-time author, you know, she is a fucking band member, and Michelle Zorner, you literally made history with this one, okay? It's 5 stars. Oh well, put me down as one of those people who missed the point with this novel. I found it overly long and full of tedious passages of prose which went nowhere. If I had known that so much of the story would be about 2 pathetic junkies and their sordid lives, I would have never started it. And so many pleasant or nonsensical characters. Enough. I have to go find a really good book to make me feel better. Just to start here, cracking open a Donna Tartt book that's like 800 to 900 pages long and then logging on to goodreads.com to say that it was overly long and full of tedious passages is a little bit nuts. I understand the frustration of not knowing that this book is about 2 pathetic junkies and their sordid lives. I didn't really either. But it is excellent literary fiction. A teen's inner life written with adult prose is something that I never knew I really needed and liked until this book. The rapturous way that this book writes so many unpleasant or nonsensical characters in cold or scary scenarios is generation defining. I say this as someone who didn't really like The Secret History, okay? This book takes a flowery prose of that and absolves it of pretension. Insufferable, it still is, but the book is gripping. It's a confounding coming-of-age story that cloaks a thriller about art robbery. It's an incredibly thorough thriller as well, where the characters are just as important as the crime. There's no detective, just fear and hope. It's a long book and it will be arduous for those who don't like the descriptive prose. But if anything I said does sound entertaining, this novel I think has the ability to change your taste in books entirely. Absolutely nothing in my book. A girl goes to live with a couple where she collects the mail. A few months later she's going back home and is all of a sudden bereft of leaving the couple. She must love collecting their mail. She must really like collecting their mail. Well, yes. The subtle kindness of parenthood is such an important part of a child's life. The simple inclusion and care can be so fundamental in shaping a person's life. Here, that is why she loves collecting their mail. The second thing to address here being all of a sudden bereft. Children are never really aware of the consequences until it is literally in their laps, in their hands, you know? Once again, I love the way that the childlike essence is so strong within an adult novel. Neither the innocence of childhood or the strength of writing is diluted in telling this story. The narrative voice is palpably rich and is able to tell a complete and heart-wrenching story of fostering in a very short novella. I also thought about adding in Babel. I think Babel is my favourite book that I've read in a very long time, but I genuinely felt so sick and sad reading those 1-star reviews that I gave up. The way that I would have spent like 30 minutes ripping into each 1-star review of that book, I thought it was just best not to talk about it. But my god, are people so stupid and racist? It felt like my skin was crawling from the casual dismissal of oppression when reading those reviews. I know that I'm ranting a bit, but you know, those are all the books I want to look at for now, and hopefully perhaps you'll go off and read one of them too. Thank you for watching the video. If you liked the video, thank you for watching the video. Like the video if you like it, and subscribe if you're really about it. Hope you have a great day and see you next time.